Hello, good day, everyone, and welcome back to From Soil Health to Climate Action, Unlocking the Power of Soil Organic Carbon. Today's session, From Degradation to Regeneration, Land Management Practices that Build Soil Organic Carbon, focuses on practical approaches that restore soil health and strengthen resilient food systems. Before we begin, I'd just like us to go over a few housekeeping. This webinar is recorded and there are translation captions available under the captions options, which can be found at the bottom of your screen by selecting the More button. As we begin today's session, today's discussion will explore how sustainable land management can help move from degradation to regeneration by building soil organic carbon, restoring ecosystem services, and supporting climate resilient food systems. We will also consider how digital tools and timely data can support better land use decisions, strengthen planning, and help anticipate risks such as drought and food insecurity. With that context in mind, let us move on to today's agenda. We done the welcome session and quick objectives and recap of the session. We will be moving on to having two speakers for today, and this will be moderated by Dr. Christian Teiger. And we'll have a question and answers, and we'll be closing with key takeaways and some closing reflections. With that, I will now hand it over to Dr. Christian Teiger, who will moderate the rest of the webinar. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you so much, Nina. Today we are going to be listening to two experts talk to us, and they'll be talking to us using 20 minutes each. And thereafter we'll come to question and answers. But meanwhile, when the two speakers are talking, we could still put up our questions or worries on the chats, just in case we may forget. And our first speaker for today is Dr. Christian Tyne. Dr. Christian Tyne is a recognized specialist in soil information system and is currently as technical lead for the African Union Soil Observatory (OSU) project, which is implemented by the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, FARA, with funding from the European Union. He has extensive experience in strengthening soil data and information system to support sustainable soil management, agriculture and productivity, climate resilience, and evidence-based policy making across Africa. Previously, he worked with the Global Soil Partnership, supporting countries in developing national soil information system and improving soil data governance. We are very happy to have Dr. Christian Tyne talk to us today, and he'll be talking to us on how we can support, how can data support more coordinated decision-making across ministries and sectors. Dr. Christian, you are highly welcome. Tell us how we could use data to support a more coordinated decision-making across ministries and sectors.
Thank you very much, Christian and team. Allow me to put my face for the first time, and then I will be switching it off for efficiency in transmission. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let me share my presentation. I guess here it comes, so I will put it in a presentation mode. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. I would like to share with you insights into data and information on how to break policy silos, with reference to what I have observed in Africa and also across the globe. My outline would be data interaction with policy, where do we see the building block or the chain where the data can support policy, and give examples of how innovations in data can break the policy and data silos, and how data can support coordinated decision making, in particular to soil and agriculture sector and environmental sector. I will give as an example case study that we already currently running in Africa. So for the data and policy, they are quite intertwined at the hip, I would say. Most modern day policy making use data. We find in the policy making process, data is included in one step or another, as maybe what they call situation analysis or evidence or implications. Data comes in to provide evidence in what they want to change, or what they would call the change logic. It will also give the foundation for decisions. In making decisions, you want to say, okay, we have been using 20 kilograms of fertilizer per acre, and we want to change it to 50 kilograms of fertilizer per acre. So why 20 to 50? The data provides information for making decisions to transition from one to another. In resource allocation, data is very important. We have had some data on how we want to make it more concrete, that 65% of Africa is degraded. Where do we put the money to reverse the degradation? Or if we say that 30% of my plot is low in soil nutrients, where do I put the money to improve that? Data will provide that. Data also is the ingredient for evaluation. When we make, for example, in Africa, policy recommendations in the agriculture sector, they do what they call biannual review. Data provides the review mechanisms. It provides the ingredient for doing the evaluation. And so this relationship is so key and important, such that data is invariably important to policy. So if we have problems in data, we have problems in policy. If we have successes in data, we have successes in policy. If we have data silos, we will have also policy silos. Data silos in form of individual systems, groups, developing their own data collection plan, their data management. If, for example, in a continent like Africa, we have countries having their own data policies, their own data development, such that they also implement their own policies. Say, for example, climate issues. If Ethiopia is collecting their own climate data and Kenya is doing the same, and they implement different policies, but the climate forcing is across the region, we end up with policy silos as well. So data silos are the things to fight against in policy decisions that touch across the board. Data silos in form of localized metadata. You have own data standards. You patronize data and put a lot of controls. You have your own data governance logic. You eventually end up with fragmented policies. It also implies that if you have improvements in data management, then you end up with improvements in policy as well. So innovations in data and information is seen here as the key to break the silos in the policy making. So how then can innovations improve the breaking of data silos and eventually policy silos? I've listed here just the broad areas that may be considered. And under each area, we can have so many cases. So, for example, going digital, in data silos, if we don't interact between each other, in the sense of not really moving data from books in one library to another, but having a digital flow, we can improve the movement of data and improvement of data eventually. Converting data into digital is one innovation that can help overcome the data silos. If data is digital, then it can also improve the movement, the mobility, the bulkiness. Think about having shafts of papers under your armpits compared to just a data stick. So the movement would be easy. And using technology and smartness also improves a lot. So going digital is one innovative ways which I have seen is really helping. If I look into African countries, most African countries now have digitized their data. Those that have not, but at least they have already started, are moving in that direction of digitizing their data and therefore improving the breakdown of data silos. Online infrastructure is one big thing which can help improve data interaction. Online infrastructure like the digital warehouses, the data lakes, we have seen a lot of growth in that area. We have big data centers which everybody can access. We have interactive facilities, the information systems, the data infrastructure. If you go to some countries like Kenya, they already have finance information management systems. We have human resource information management system. So this kind of infrastructure will help connect between users, between data sources, and between processes, data wrangling, between different departments, and therefore improve the interaction which would otherwise look like the silos. Improving the data access by online infrastructure is one big thing that I have seen tremendously improve data and policy development in Africa. Africa coverage with internet is nowadays very good, and mobile phones are transforming how farmers can access information. It's transforming how extension officers can interact with farmers and etc. So online infrastructure is one other innovation. Collaboration is also an important area where different stakeholders are brought together to co-design, co-create, and co-share information. We have seen how the farmer communities, how the government, how the research organization come together to co-develop data and data tools that help a lot with policy interventions. Research is also another area which is very important. Research is helping a lot to increase the data usage, interpretation, and handling, the creation, the reuse, the access, the preservation, eventually developing tools or information that can support a decision. So these are just examples of how innovations can really help to overcome the data silos. But just then, how can we take this further to make decisions across ministry and sectors? If you remember what I just said about having infrastructure, the interconnected data linkages between ministry and databases will enhance collaboration. We see different ministries which otherwise were in isolated regimes begin to talk to each other in terms of data collection, understanding what one ministry is doing that is related to another. Say, for example, in agriculture sector, the data that is coming from the environmental and natural resource ministries would be very important in helping with resource mobilization, contacting the actors, and so on and so forth. So the interconnection is very important and really helps with ministries having holistic view whenever they are developing policies. It also reduces overall cost of data management. If we have a centralized data system, we will only put budgetary allocations to the system to connect different ministries rather than each ministry having budgetary allocation to mount their own data system. The digital infrastructure has gone a long way to improve data handling and information, improve access, knowledge, data-driven policy making. I give an example of the European Soil Observatory. Since its establishment, this really helped the European Union to even come up with suitable soil policies that help the continent. They have also improved data access a lot and collaboration between different sectors. So there is a lot of gain in digital infrastructure. The research is also doing a lot of work. I know in Africa we have also we have been doing a lot of collaboration development between stakeholders to improve the data portfolio, which is going on very well. We also have research going on developing tools for data access, which have been used in different places, like in data collection, in extension, in fertilizer recommendations, and so on and so forth. And we hope that when we combine this in future, we are also going to bring together the business, the private sector, the development of soil testing kits, which would be anchored on under one soil data center. So these are some of the areas which I think can really improve decision making across ministries, across sectors, between countries on the continent. If I may conclude with a case study of AWUSO. AWUSO is an example of a continental-wide platform for improving data access on the continent with the objective of developing a soil observatory to monitor and report on soil health, develop soil health dashboard, a project that was started with 6 objectives to achieve continental-wide soil data support and reporting. Also was developed to have impact at 2 levels, continental and national level, to provide infrastructure for serving accessible Africa soil data and information across the board, and support soil health monitoring and reporting in accordance with the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Action Plan. If you're interested in AWUSO, we have a website linkage which I put there. AWUSO has done a lot of publicity aiming at providing improved data access, soil knowledge, and soil data quality. We don't want the Africa data and information to be gleaned from global products, but customized and improved with periodic update from within Africa. It has several impacts, scientific impacts, economic impacts, technological impacts, and societal impacts, which is just because of how data is managed and handled. Thank you very much for that. I think I would stop there and will be available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christian. I think you've done a lot and you've opened us a lot on how data silos can be broken and how we can use data to support a more coordinated action across sectors. And you've also respected your time, and so we are going to definitely have more time for interactions with the participants online. And if you have questions, please just put them on the chat for now. We're going to come to that. And we are now going to move to our next speaker. Our next speaker will be talking to us on the role of GIS, remote sensing and decision support system in strengthening soil organic carbon outcomes. We are having Dr. Harifide Rakuto from the University of Antananarivo, Madagascar. Dr. Harifido Rakuto is the head of research at the Land and Landscape and Development Research Laboratory in the School of Agriculture and at the University of Antananarivo in Madagascar. His research focuses on natural resource monitoring, sustainable land management, and landscape restoration, with a strong emphasis on improving local community livelihoods. He is widely recognized for bridging scientific research, local knowledge, and policies to improve on evidence-based approaches that support sustainable development. Dr. Rakuto, you are highly welcome. Please tell us how we could use GIS remote sensing to support decision making across these systems based on to strengthen the soil organic carbon outcomes.
Thank you very much, Christian, for this introduction. I am going also to switch off my camera in order to have it smoothly. But thank you very much for organizing this webinar. And so I think you already have my screen, right?
Yeah, we have your screen.
Yes, so this presentation is a real follow-up of the first one about the need of data, but also but focusing more about the need of spatial data to improve also decision making, but also strengthening these policy making processes for soil organic carbon. I will just present today some few examples of our work here in Madagascar, including really grassroots situation of what we are doing. So for the outline, I have just taken the title of our webinar, focusing more about the degradation processes, how we are capturing this, also how we are also using this to capture the drivers of change, and then to see how the regeneration purposes can be done in the field and also in a larger scale, and how we can also monitor that after in the landscape with all other activities. So going to this idea of spatially explicit data, where it matters and where it is needed, and how we are using this. And at the end, about going back to this evidence-based impact and how also we can use GIS and remote sensing for that. So for the first question about the degradation processes, it is a photo taken by our drone in the northwest of Madagascar. Perhaps some of us has already seen that. It is near a protected area in the northwest of Madagascar. As you know, Madagascar is known for its particular unique biodiversity. And unfortunately, we have on the left side, I say on the left side, the protected area, which is really which is an area which is covered by activities done for conservation. And on the right side, we have land managed by communities for sustainable land management, especially here for vegetables cropping. So it is where we are saying we have to think about where the degradations happens, when, how, and how we can capture that. Of course, for a protected area, we are thinking about forests, something that is managed and also conserved. But for this example, for example, we have the problem in the protected areas, and we are seeing that in the land managed by the local communities, we have some practices that are more sustainable. It is very important to capture that, because if something happens, especially upstream, like what we have here, even we have this inside the forested area, I mean the protected areas, it has a lot of impacts downstream. For example, in the case of our photo here, in the rice fields downstream. So it is needed to capture on the same time the degradation processes, but the impacts also of all of these degradations, which may be not in the repartition, I mean, in the place of the degradation, but also more broader around these degradation processes. I mean, for example, here downstream in the rice fields of the communities. Because at the end of the processes, everything will collapse. Even, for example, the local communities are doing well downstream, but if it is not conserved upstream and also not restored when we have degradation, everything will be degraded at the end, upstream and downstream, because of erosions in the case of what we are seeing in the field in the Northwest here. So at the end, there will be, for example, for the case of the Northwest, most of the landscape will be more, the trend will be for really degraded savanna. So it is important to capture all of that, and also to see what are the underlying drivers of change. Of course, there are the needs for land, for example, and also the socioeconomic aspects for our case, especially poverty, meaning also the needs for fertility. And needs for fertility, most of the time, is going inside the forest for these communities, because they have not inputs. They have not enough money to have inputs for their cultivations, and there are no subsidies. So the only solution for them is to use the fertility inside the forested area, meaning slash and burn activities. And you can clearly see also the impact on that on the landscape. So of course, most of us will think about how we can restore the degraded land. But most of the time, we are seeking for solutions, I mean technical solutions. For example, here, it is our work on plowing and reviving soil in savanna in Madagascar. But most of the time, we are not thinking about the underlying drivers. It is where it is needed to have also on the same time, based on what we are seeing in the field, capturing this in spatial data and trying to understand the underlying drivers. I mean, especially the social one and the economic one, with all of the actors. I mean, all of the institutional actors, but also with the farmers and the local communities. And you clearly see in these two photos that we are using several tools for that, in order to capture the different understanding of the actors of the situations. It is bringing us to have some, you are using, let's say, simple tools to try to capture all of these flows, in order to see pathways or possible pathways to go out of this vicious cycle of degradation. So trying to understand first what happens in the landscape, and how the drivers of change leading to these degradations happens, and where are the root causes, in order to co-create with the actors some pathways. Which parts of the solution can be used and can be tested here, for example, on the governance, on the side, on the approaches that can be done technically in the field, on transversal measures, for example, on land tenure, or also on the markets that is sometimes can improve also the situation on the ground. So for example, for the pilot sites, which was the point two in this results that we have done with the actors, we have what we call here a living lab, which is based on where we are working in order to have evidence which techniques are working and which one are not working. And you can see here that we are doing a temporal analysis in order to capture all of the phenomenon that happens in the landscape. You can clearly see that we have started on 2021, where all of this area where we worked was totally degraded, and tried to do several techniques to recover the land. So we are capturing year by year with our drones what is happening in the landscape and how it is changing during these processes. It helps us to create evidence in order to showcase all of the practices that can be done. On the same time, it also gives us some feedbacks on how it happens in real conditions in the field. It is a zoom of, for example, one part of what we have done on 2021, starting, as you see, from a real degraded land. And it is the results of what we have done, for example, but it needs 3 years to come back to here. So it shows us also the needed time to recover degraded land. So we can see also that, for example, for farmers who are looking for impact on their food situation, for example, in 1 year or in 2 years, it is not possible to use this kind of techniques because it takes time to recover. So it shows also some limitations of all this kind of activities, for example. So now it helps us also to understand how we can also include that in the landscape. So now we are going more in the macro level. I mean, in Madagascar, we are capturing all of what we are seeing in the field through a watershed systems that we have created, using several levels, from a level 1 to level 8, in order to capture real actions in the field. Meaning that when we are going in the field, we will capture on the right side, you clearly see here the different activities of different projects active in the area, because we have also to understand that in a landscape, we are not working lonely. There are several activities that are done in the region. We have to have also a monitoring system that capture all of these activities in order to have an accountable and a transparent system to capture the impacts of all of these activities. So it is an example of how we are using this with our drones in order also to find the real centers and where restoration are needed. It is an example in a small watershed in one area, or still in the northwest, where we are trying to have less soil erosion. So thinking about the rice fields downstream and finding where are the sources of the soil loss upstream. So having more activities centered in this upstream part in order to have the impact downstream. And our monitoring system have to capture now, on the same time, the ongoing activities upstream, but also the impacts of all of that in terms of soil loss or limitation of soil loss in the rice fields downstream. So we are using that in order to create some very simple, to have very simple framing of the landscape in order to show to the local communities what can be done to protect, for example, their rice field downstream and where to act or where to restore in order to protect their rice fields downstream. So, and at the end of the processes, I mean, when the restoration is done, we have to have also a system that can, on the same time, localize all of the activities, but also localize the impact in the watershed. For example, here, the local communities have worked in the red dots, the red polygons, and the impact was analyzed in the yellow one. And we are seeing that the impacts were more broader than the yellow watershed where we have assessed, because you have in the transparent part all of the impacted one from limitation of soil loss. Of course, we have seen improvement of soil organic carbon only on the red polygons, but also other co-benefits of our work on soil loss limitations inside the watershed. But and we have also all of the information on, the evolution of the soil organic carbon over time, because we are doing the analysis every year. But we have also to see that, for example, in this second site, we have in the center other activities that have been really targeted very well, which has an impact in the huge watershed. But on the right side, in the locality called Andidi, for example, we have done works with the local communities in the red polygons, and we didn't have any impact in the watersheds, showing also that we have to capture some limitations of our activities. So we are trying at the end of our activities to understand why in some areas we have impacts, for example, and why in the other areas we don't have this kind of impact, and trying to have this feedback to the local communities and discuss later what are the causes of having or not having impacts. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that there are a lot of questions from your side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harifidi, for bringing us a clear, good example of innovation in data and the impact that it has on soil organic carbon, following up directly from the presentation of Dr. Christian, who told us that innovation in data is key to break silos, and you have spoken to us more about an example of that innovation, spatial data, how important it is. So we'll be moving now to the question and answer part of this webinar, and I'll be going to the chat to see if we have some questions there. Meanwhile, if you have a question, please kindly put up your hand and we will give you the room to ask your question as well. I don't know. Nina, do we have some questions from the chat?
Yes, we have a question by an Emmanuel James. I don't know if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question, but they are asking, sorry, just lost the question. There we go. How do you think the African countries can make data access, especially for future generations, So the biggest problem in African countries is data access. And how do you think the African countries can make data access accessible for future generations?
Okay, thank you. We will give the room to any of our speakers to speak to us. How can we gain data access? Because one of the widely spoken in Africa is data access, which is a limitation to many things concerning our efforts of conserving or enhancing soil organic carbon. And we have seen that we are still working more on silos, and we need to get a more collaborative approach. So how can we gain data access in Africa? Could you throw more light on that, any of our speakers?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me address that. Well, I have seen over the years that data access inaccessibility is stemming from the data silos. Countries are holding on to their data because they think that they have used a lot of national resources to generate the data, and so data belongs to them. Number two, there are countries that are not aware that they can share the data. They think that the data is there, anybody can access, and yet it is not accessible. So they have not really converted the data into a mobile data format that can be accessed. There are also countries that don't have the sufficient infrastructure to make their data accessible, including the technology. And so their data also remain locked within the countries. And that also happens a lot with data providers from within the countries. So there are a number of reasons making data inaccessible in Africa, particularly the soil data. Now, since the past 10 years, actually, there have been a lot of growth in data and data protection rights and data evolution in almost all the countries. Africa Union has a department that is really concerned with opening data and having data protected accordingly. So in soil matters, agriculture sector and environment, we are working with the development partners, stakeholders, data holders in Africa, and to make data accessible. Also, Africa Union Soil Observatory is taking the cue on this to, first of all, find out where data is for Africa and make it accessible, something that it has already done, and providing access to the data. Number two, it is also working with the African Union to entice the countries to open up their data, or at least have a linkage with the African Union Soil Observatory to provide access to their data where necessary. There are protocols for data access that we have developed at African Union Soil Observatory, those which are accessible through copyright and those which are open access. The ones which are open, accessible through copyright, we link the data users with the data holders so that they can have access. And what we have seen as a way forward in having data access in the future is to put up different levels of data rights of protection or licensing. If a country feels like there is one data that should be restricted, they can provide what we have here as metadata or some standards that can be linked to other data access or data lakes. And that way we can have different levels of data access. And with time, I think there would be open access to all the data. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christian. Well, Dr. Arifidi have more lights to throw on this? If not,
just one.
okay.
Just one point for this. From our side, we have, for example, a system of collecting a lot of data, but we have to be honest also that it costs. The cost of this is very expensive. So we have to find a way of win-win initiatives on how data collectors also can benefit by sharing. So I think it is still a huge question to be addressed.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we have data, but the problem of access to this data is very challenging to us. And agreeing also with Dr. Christian that the structural basis for keeping this data is also a challenge. And I think we need the data access policies at different levels in order to make this data available. And one of the easiest way this data can easily be available is also through research and publication. If we try to do publications as well, it will be easy for people to gain access to this data through internet search as well. So we actually need to work on improving the accessibility of data across Africa. Do we have another question, Nina?
Yes, we have a question from Bernard Kimoro, as for Dr. Arafiri. Is there a policy framework that is supporting the work you're doing, and is it a public initiative?
Yes, I'm seeing the list from the chat, so I will pick up one by one. The first one was, of course, the presentation can be shared. The second one, we are working on the two slides at the end about the impacts. We have just finalized that last week. We are working now on not a real paper, but a white paper in order to capture all of that. And I think that it can be released before the end of this year. So it can be when the white paper will be finalized, there are areas where it can be shared and replicated for other activities. And then for the policy framework, when we have started this initiative, we have been more under project activities, especially GIZ, but we have moved just 1 year after to public-private activities and more private than public activities, because we are also on the same time creating these techniques in order to showcase to the private sector that there are some business plans that can be done from degraded land to sustainable land management and doing business in between. So now we have more activities from the private part. So and now we are more informing the public. I mean, we have, for example, a lot of exchanges with the ministries, especially with the Ministry of Environment, but also the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock. So we are also informing them on these activities in order to see how it can be included in the policies, for example, and how it can be largely upscaled in the country and in other countries, for example. And now for the works with the local communities and indigenous people. Yes, we had a lot of challenges when we have started all of these activities, because in the area where we are working, we have also a lot of herders. I mean, for the pasture land, because most of the degraded land are partly used for pasture, for example. And it is the reason why in all our system, we have an integrated livestock and agriculture system where we found some trade-off in on how we can use also all of the inputs from the headers, meaning that we are using, for example, all of the manures from the cows to be used for our sustainable land management system. So we have solved all of the tensions that we have seen when we have started with an integrated system in between the livestock and the agriculture. Yes, we are still struggling with the lack of input and poverty, because we have seen that, as you know, when we are going to the primary production, we are seeing that without subsidies, it is not so easy. So, and also with the poverty. And now we are going to put in our system to improve the market system, meaning that we are going also now to put in our system transformation plans, meaning that we are going to transform also the production of the local communities in order to improve the prices, because we are seeing also that now that we have cleared the production system, they are struggling to access to markets. So it is why we are working a lot with the private sector now in order to do more transformations locally, in order to give, let's say, some ethic prices for activities coming from what we are doing in the field.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arifidi. Another question on the chat is on how can this organization and the African Union ensure research institutions, technologies like AI are built in our countries to ease access to data from youth, women, people with disability, indigenous people, government, university, and the private sectors. So how can we ensure that we institute technologies to build it in our country so that we could easily have access to data?
If I can go?
Okay, that's fine.
From our side, it is one of my slides about where you have seen this 2021 to 2026. It is what we are calling living labs. It belongs to our research lab, where we have interactions with local communities. I mean, and most of the time it is the youth and women who are the most interested in our living labs, because they are seeing, some new innovation that is not most of the time common in the area. So we are facilitating this kind of contacts really at the grassroots level. Now we are trying to see how also from these interactions we can collect all of also their inspiration and aspirations to see how we can also bridge this to the policy making processes. Our living lab is now used to do this bridge, but we know that it is not still enough, because we are the living lab is now like a catalyst in between the grassroots people and the policy makers through these exchanges. But we are seeing that we are still to work on this, but we are trying to do this.
Okay, thank you. It's always a challenge, and it's still at the beginning, and it's a good job to get the youths involved, and so that we could bridge that and get them have our data. Will Dr. Christian have anything to add on that from his own part?
Yes. I want to say that one of the things that would really improve data access is riding on the mobile phone technology and internet access. If we can make our data to also move through that infrastructure, by and large, I think more than 70% of the population in Africa would have access. Now, at the African Union level and through African Union Soil Observatory, we have a plan of bringing together the stakeholders in digital device and information dissemination, including the youth and women, into a conference to co-develop tools and services that can disseminate soil to increase the soil data and other data set to increase awareness and knowledge across the region. So it's a process that is rolling in. I know that there is a continental policy in this regard, which we are also going to ride on. The countries have been mandated to also do this and put in infrastructure and policy at the national levels to enhance that data delivery. So it's a multi-pronged strategy that the African Union is developing together with the stakeholders and the development partners to ensure that data is riding through infrastructure that is accessible to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We are gradually moving to the close of this webinar. We will also request the speakers to share their contacts with participants so that they could contact you for more follow-up or more advice and more integration, collaboration on how to get access to data. We are very happy with our speakers. They have presented to us and enlightened us a lot about, starting with Dr. Tyne, who told us how the silos should be discouraged, that it is helping us only to make fragmented policies. And he went ahead to tell us how innovation in data is key for us to break these silos, and that collaboration and co-designing, co-creation, cost sharing, and networking are other benefits that comes from innovative data to break silos. Online infrastructure and going digital completely is important. And he also told us that decision that we could support coordinated decision across sectors by getting the interconnected links to data across these sectors, getting that digital infrastructure connected across different ministries and sectors, and involving collaborative research as well. So we also went ahead to listen to Dr. Arifidi, who also gave us insight on one of the digital tools, the innovative digital tools that can easily be used to provide evidence data for decision making, and that was using GIS and remote sensing, how important it is to capture all the degradation processes that are going on and exactly at which spots these degradation processing are going on. And he also told us more about the impacts of some of the underlying processes that are the underlying drivers that are leading to these degradation processes. Through GIS, we can easily identify that, and we can also evaluate the impact of our decisions of the policies through GIS and remote sensing, and it will provide us to what extent this decision is being implemented. And also, he went ahead to show us how with GIS you can easily move from a micro level to a whole macro level where you see the global impact or the regional impact of our decision. And so moving from micro level to global level definitely entails a lot of collaboration, breaking the silos that we started by discouraging from Dr. Christian. So thank you very much to our participants. Thank you very much to our speakers. We are highly grateful for your time, and we keep on the fight to enhance soil organic carbon across Africa. And we keep on the collaboration. We keep on working so that we could break all of these difficulties that we have in Africa when it comes to enhancing our soil organic carbon. Thank you very much. And I think without any further question, we could bring the webinar to an end. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.